Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Mirror Dungeon solo video. Today's episode is a very special one as it marks us being exactly halfway done with soloing the Mirror Dungeon using every single identity in the game. And of course, the identity who holds the honor of being the halfway point is none other than base Heathcliff himself. Out of all of the base identities, he is easily the best of them all. He has good rolls on all of his skills, a free tremor burst on his skill 3 which makes him actually usable in a tremor team, and of course the ability to get even greater clash power and damage just by using a skill 2. The most interesting thing about him that is wholly unique to him though is his ability to buff the second coin on his skill 3 by hitting with the first. Other identities are capable of mimicking this effect, most notably ones that gain coin power through the use of status effects, but Heathcliff is the only one to buff his coin power during the use of the skill itself. Ultimately, it doesn't do much other than provide a little bit of extra damage, but it is an interesting fact nonetheless. The one and only thing I would change about his kit is give him tremor count somewhere, probably on his counter as it doesn't do anything. Other than that though, he's pretty much exactly what you want in a base identity. He's just a good all-around solid unit. In fact, Heathcliff as a whole doesn't really have a bad identity. He's one of the few characters who, no matter what you have for him, it's all usable to some extent. To start the run off, we pick Oscillating Bracelet and Sour Liquor Aroma for our starting gifts, and head into Faith and Erosion for the first floor. For the first boss, we are up against the Slithering Inquisitors, and they are easily able to be considered the first major roadblock of the run. The reason these guys pose such a massive problem is for two specific reasons. The first is they are capable of inflicting a ton of paralysis, making clashing nearly impossible, and allowing them to inflict even more paralysis, thus repeating the cycle until we die. The second problem is that they continuously gain skill slots at the same rate as us, which makes it so we can never clash with everything. We are constantly taking unavoidable damage because of this, and if we ever try to clash normally, odds are we'll lose the clash. Heathcliff is capable of ignoring paralysis to some extent thanks to his skill 2 giving him attack power, but for it to reach any meaningful amount you really need to use multiple of them. The one thing that made this fight possible, outside of relying on pure RNG, was through the use of Heathcliff's Telepole ego. Not only is it a negative coin ego, meaning paralysis is actually a buff for it, but base Heathcliff also fuels it perfectly. We start every single turn off by using it as it is a guaranteed clash win, but more importantly it consumes a bunch of paralysis, allowing our subsequent clashes to be more likely to win. Eventually, through the use of this strategy, we manage to stagger and destroy the arms of the Inquisitors. By that point, we have all of our skill slots, and while the poison they inflict is capable of staggering, we don't take nearly enough damage to need to worry about it. We take the Melted Eyeball for a reward and receive Nixie Divergence as a bonus, before heading into the automated factory for the next floor. Here we manage to buy out the entire shop, getting Reverberation, Venomous Skin, Painkillers, Imposed Weight, Oracle, and an extra skill 2 before making it to the boss against the Pink Shoes. This fight is not really that difficult. The scariest thing is the robot after a few turns, but we can easily clash with it, and with all of the enemies being weak to wrath damage, spamming skill 2s is more than enough to take them all out. That's really how Heathcliff likes to function anyway, so it's not that big of a deal. This fight would be slightly more difficult if I wasn't running this Holiday ego. Heathcliff's base ego is fatal to lust damage, which is the biggest threat in the early floors, so I swapped it out for that reason. After this fight though, I swapped back to base, even though in hindsight it probably would have been better to keep Holiday for the rest of the run.
지금 뭘 잘못했는지는 알구나 해. 드라마에서 봤어. 모두 봤지? 방금 그 방법으로.
시작한다. 자기야. 쉽네. 쉽네.
We take Bell of Truth for our reward and head into Dregs of the Manor for the next floor. Here we fuse Clockwork Spring and find the rusty commemorative coin before rolling the 1 in 3 chance to instantly lose. The Dead Rabbit's boss is one of the scariest bosses in the entire dungeon for solos. If you don't have an evade or a powerful ego, you're basically just dead instantly. Luckily, we're playing as Heathcliff and as such have access to binds. While being a powerful ego, it also does gloom damage, which this boss is weak to. Using it on the first turn staggers all 3 of the rabbit minions, and with the commemorative coin it brings them all the way down to exactly 1 HP. This allows the AoE passive effect from binds to finish them off the next turn, and as such we can fully focus on the boss. The third turn is the scariest part of the fight, as if we don't stagger him now, we die. Doing so is actually pretty easy, all things considered. All we have to do is use a couple of skill 3s to apply Fragile thanks to Bell of Truth, and then use binds again so his Gloom Fatality will stagger him. Of course, Commemorative Coin devours our sanity in doing so, but it's a small price to pay for being able to beat the Dead Rabbit's boss.
시작한다.
We take Green Spirit for our reward and head into a certain world for the next floor. Here we buy Coffee and Cranes, Grey Coat, and an extra skill 3 before making it to the boss against Nelly. Honestly, I should have gotten rid of the commemorative coin by now. It hurts us more than it helps us in this fight, but it's one of those things that's really difficult to get rid of. Its effect is really powerful and can easily swing the tide of a battle by itself, but oftentimes it ends up being more trouble than it's worth. Nelly is one of the encounters where that is the case. We are fatal to gluttony damage with the Heathcliff space ego, and so obviously want to change our resistances. But in doing so, tanks our sanity, and with Nelly's fairly high clash power, makes the fight pretty difficult afterwards. Changing our resistances allows us to survive to the third turn, where Nelly uses her insta-stagger skill. With our sanity being low, there is no way we can beat the skill normally, and it's impossible for us to stagger her before she uses it. We're forced to use egos to clash with it, not only to stop it from staggering us, but also to heal with Greycoat, so her regular attacks don't do the same thing. Using binds gives us attack power the next turn, which lets us partially ignore the low sanity and win clashes, ultimately staggering Nelly and winning us the fight.
간다.
저거 봐, 제 휘청거리고 있다.
간다.
완벽한 한방, 시원한걸?
We take the Chief Butler's secret arts for our reward and head into excessive gluttony for the final floor. Here we buy Phantom Pain and Illusory Hunt before winning a short fight against Fairy Longlegs to get the 4-leaf Clover and Emerald Elytra. We also fuse Downpour and the handheld mirror before entering into the final boss against the Fey Lantern. I still have nightmares about this thing to the point where when it staggered me in one of my attempts, I immediately started getting flashbacks. I know he's not that bad now, but man, Mirror Dungeon 3 Fey Lantern was a different beast. With all of the Mirror Dungeon buffs we've collected thus far, it's pretty difficult for us to actually win clashes against the Fairy. Even our skill 3 isn't capable of doing it without using multiple skill 2s the turn prior. We have to use at least 2 skill 2s the turn before it reveals itself, otherwise we can't guarantee a clash win. It takes us 2 cycles before we end up staggering it, but once we do, the fight is instantly over.
약점을 잘 노리셨습니다. 이제 해결사의 존재도 익숙해지셨네요.
간다.
저희 직원들이 identity를 파괴했어요. 역시 미리 훈련하길 잘했죠?
시작한다.
감동적이지 않을 수 없네.
무얼 잘못했는지 아는 것부터
그거냐?
시작이 됐어. 저기, 저 개체부터 처리하면
시작한다.
칼날이 잘 드네요. 아마 그 공격이 약점이었겠죠?
괜찮은 공격이네요. 앞으로도 그렇게만 해주세요.
방금 공격은 좋았어. 이대로만 계속해보면 좋을 텐데.
쉽네. 이런 건 몽둥이가 약이지. 그 두드려 패. 보여? 마구잡이로 때려 부숴놨지.
And that's how I soloed Mirror Dungeon 4 hard using only base Heathcliff. 61 down, 61 more to go. Heathcliff is a good identity. I wish all base identities were like him, but no. He has to deal with characters like Base Sinclair, who has the worst defenses in the entire game, and a skill 2 that rolls a 10. I really am dreading the day where I have to use him. Anyway, that's it for me. Like and subscribe to not miss next time where we'll be using this character. Goodbye!